Alright, here I know. Oh, na, 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 na. Oh, na, 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 na. Alright, Season 3.
Good evening and welcome back to another edition of the myt-sports podcast. I am your host, the one and only Talent T. Taylor. It is September 13th. It is 84 degrees down here in South Florida. And yes, folks, this is the first podcast after episode Irma. Is this the first one after episode Irma? I believe so. Last one we did was right before episode Irma. We even tried to do a fantasy podcast that didn't quite go so well. But you know what? Today we got a lot in the working. We're going to get the NFL recap and the NFL predictions. We're going to get some fantasy football tips going on today. We even get a chance to sneak in some NBA news. And let's not forget that this is fight week. But before we go any further, you know what I say, regardless of the time, regardless of the weather, it's always a good time for us to talk some sports. So let's start talking. Back at it like a sports fanatic. Woo! So before we get into any further, can we? We're going to start off by congratulating the Cleveland Indians on tying, or actually setting the record with 21 straight wins, which is the longest record since the 1935 Cubs. Now, mind you, they still have 5 more games before they can beat the all-time record of 26 wins that was held by like the 1915 Mets, I believe. But kudos to them. Big ups on setting that American League record as they thrive for even more greatness. As they're still trying to, believe it or not, they're still even trying to just be the best team in baseball. And since we are talking about baseball, let's give you guys some break-in news real quick. We have the Boston Red Sox up against... Oh, the game just went to commercial. But the Boston Red Sox was up against somebody. I can't remember the other team they was up against. And, what was it? Jackie Bradley just hit a home run so that the Red Sox can close the gap between 6 and 3, as the Boston Red Sox are currently down. Now, the only significance to this right now is that not only breaks the Boston Red Sox in on top of the American League East, but they are also being trailed by, yes, my Yankees by currently 4 games. If they take this L here, it's probably going to get down to 3.5 games. Now, let's get into exactly what we're about to get into. And that is football. The NFL. Let's start off with the NFL because you know what? I'm not going to lie. I noticed something very recently. And it comes in the way on the form of Odell Beckham. And I know you guys are starting to think that, you know what, I may be starting to pick on Odell Beckham a little bit of the way I pick on LeBron James, but you know what? I'm really not that bad on him. And you know what? This game is back. So let's take a moment so we can give you this break-in score. It is... Oh, game's not back. Okay, forget about this game. Forget about this score. We're going to readjust these chairs. Alrighty. So, I know you guys are probably thinking I'm picking on Odell Beckham the way I kind of pick on LeBron, and it's further from the truth. Right? I have nothing. Well, Odell Beckham's a kind of a dirty player, and LeBron James just never really, as much as people are gonna say whatever he does or whatever he did, he never really fully lived up to all of that potential. That's to me. So, people can say what they really want to say about LeBron. I'm still not a fan, but today's not about LeBron. Today's about Odell Beckham Jr. And I'm noticing something as I'm seeing Odell Beckham Jr. just about every single place lately, except for on the court, or really, on the field, or really actually actively practicing this year. Like, you remember, like, he's at award shows when he should be going to practice camps with his quarterback. And now he's injured, but he has time to be dancing in the club very recently. Yes. Can't make it onto the field, can't make it onto the practice field, but he's been dancing in the club. And it made me realize something, right? And actually, I realized this before I heard that he was dancing in the club. I learned this from one of his commercials, actually. And during one of his commercials, where he's doing it's like a promo / commercial. He's up a stage, of course, and he's doing some dance routine, like strip it, toss it, bake it, smack it, flip it, rub it, smack it, flip it, rub it down, or something to that nature, right? And it made me quickly realize, as no doubt the guy came out during the commercials, that, you know what? What if Odell Beckham is trying to be the next Gronkowski? What if that is his goal? And if that's his goal, maybe he's not so disruptive as we come to think he is. Because, listen, Gronkowski does a lot of stuff off the field, and he gets a lot of passes for it. But you know why he gets a lot of passes for it? Because his team consistently wins. And when it comes time to it, Gronkowski always consistently performs. Gronkowski has never dropped balls in key moments or during key wins for his team. Gronkowski is a multiple-time champion at this current stage of his career. So Gronkowski may have been doing this his whole entire time, but it was already determined that Gronkowski not was only the best tight end in the league, but he also proved it every single time he was on the field with wins, not just with numbers. At the end of the day, the wins are what really, really, really matter. So, Odell Beckham is starting to remind me of that same old story that we kind of heard with Odell Beckham. What we hear with Gronkowski. But you know what? It's not really that same story. His story is more of the story of Terrell Owens and Ocho Cinco, where they may be great and they're putting up great numbers and know whatever they're doing, but ultimately you have to help your team win. And like I said, I'm noticing that you're seeing Odell Beckham everywhere this year. He has a Verizon or T-Mobile commercial. He has this cereal commercial. He has the Head and Shoulders commercial. Odell Beckham, for somebody who is not a winner so far. Because remember, this is part of the same thing that they were giving people like LeBron James and them slack for. So for somebody that's not a winner, right, that definitely hasn't even won a playoff game yet, you understand that is one of the key factors to why his team didn't win a playoff game, because you wanted to go topless on a boat with a bunch of men and then fumble balls your first game back. So this really is the same old story for me. He's in the clubs. He's in commercials. He's everywhere he needs to be right now, except for on the field helping his team win. And very oddly enough, for what he wants, which is to be the highest paid player in the NFL, which means right now he wants more than $92 million guaranteed. For what he wants, him being off the field may be the best thing for him. Because I know what you're saying. You're thinking like, T, like you sound crazy. But think about this. This past week, the New York Giants lost to the Dallas Cowboys 19-3. Now, this was a game that was up to the point where most people said, listen, if Odell Beckham plays this game, I probably will pick the Giants as the favorite. If he doesn't, then the Giants are definitely going to lose. And the Giants lost, and they looked bad. And they couldn't have any time. And they couldn't get anybody open downfield. And they couldn't get the ball where they wanted to. While Dallas listen, we're not even, let's just go ahead and talk about it. Well, the Dallas Cowboys and Ezekiel Elliott ramrodded those boys. Ezekiel Elliott, a guy that kind of said the same thing about, like, if Ezekiel Elliott doesn't play this game, I'm probably not going to be too comfortable picking Dallas winning this game. But Ezekiel Elliott found a way to fandangle his way back onto the court. And he helped his team beat the Giants 19-3. So week 1 of the football season started off with an absolute bang. I'm talking about fireworks everywhere. I mean, literally, just continuous, non-stream, non-stop, unadulterated fireworks. The very first game itself, I'm talking about the very first game, the season opener, this New England Patriots versus the Kansas City Chiefs. And guys have to remember, and I'm one of the people that said it too this year. Now, I didn't see New England Patriots losing too many games this year. I automatically said that they were going to win a Super Bowl this year from the very moment that they got Brandon Cook. Now, little did I know, and along that line, that Wes Welker, I don't think it's Wes Welker, but Amendola, and who is the other guy that he has? I can't remember his name. But his two lighter receivers, what did it say? Oh man, what is it? What is the name? Amendola and what's his other buddy's name? Jeez, he's always defending him every chance he gets. Can't remember it. It's unimportant as I draw this blank again. So, it's very safe to say that like a lot of people said that the New England Patriots weren't going to lose a lot of games this year. Now, did I think that the New England Patriots weren't going to lose any games this year? No. I don't think I ever thought it was going to get that bad. But I didn't see a lot of losses on their calendar. Now, am I going to sit here and tell you guys that, because we didn't do the mighty picks this year, or this week. We didn't do it for the first week. Right? But we will be doing it for the second week live. And, well, this is this week, obviously. We'll be doing it live. And also, from here on out, obviously. But so I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I would have picked Kansas City to beat New England for the very first game opener. You're damn right I am. Because of my just overall natural hate for New England and anything Boston, Bostonian, New England, that whole general area. So, yeah, this is my part. I'm also happy that Boston Red Sox are losing right now to the Oakland A's. Still 6-3. That's if I'm not mistaken. I could be off. I haven't seen the score yet. I'm just assuming that it's still 6-3. And as I'm looking at the time, as we got to come across our first break pretty soon, can I tell you guys that I do apologize for the late start? I did to start off the show letting you know that this is the first show after Hurricane Irma, so we've had all kinds of technical difficulties. And of course, one would happen right about 5 minutes before I'm getting ready to go live on the air. So a quick outage delays the whole entire recording. A quick technical problem delayed the whole entire recording for 45 minutes. Yes, folks. I had a 50-minute issue. But we're back. This is Mighty Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Talent T. Taylor. When we come back from this break, we will talk about the NFL Week 1 and do that recap. This is Mighty Sports Podcast. When we return.
Medical cannabis and its 500 naturally occurring compounds are treating dozens of diseases and symptoms. Like its symphony, cannabis compounds perform better when they work together. This is known as the entourage effect. The two most well-known cannabinoids are THC and CBD, We have to say yes to adequate levels of not only CBD, but THC and other cannabinoids. Support medical cannabis legislation in Florida that allows regulated access to the many benefits of this life-changing plant.
And we are back to the Mighty Sports Podcast. If you're listening, thank you. As I told you, we're going to take a quick commercial break. That current score of the Oakland A's and Boston Red Sox is 7-3. Top of the sixth with a man on second. So, hopefully Oakland can finish out this game so the Yankees can close out on those Red Sox a little bit better. So, as I said before, and I'll say it again, you're listening to the Mighty Sports Podcast. I am still your host, Talent Taylor. We're going to get back into talking some football. So, the biggest upset of the week happened with the very first game, with Kansas City beating the New England Patriots. And it didn't look like that earlier. The New England Patriots actually jumped out to a very early lead. And based off where the score was at the halftime, which I believe was 24-3 or 21-3, something of that nature, you would not believe that the New England Patriots would end up losing that game 27-42. They lost that game 27-42. As that defense was ran all over, they were passed all over, and they got to top, and that offensive line allowed Kansas City to get to Tom Brady, even though they ended up losing Barry. Now, one of the major things that I guess kind of scares me, right, in this particular incident is that we all know that New England has a good squad. We all know that New England is the kind of team that very quickly corrects their mistakes. We don't see New England losing a lot of seasons where you don't see New England have a lot of seasons where they don't have double-digit wins. So this is loss number one. If this is loss number one for the season for the New England Patriots, how long is it before they get loss number two? Because this is the kind of game that if you know Bill Belichick, if you know Tom Brady, if you know New England Patriots, if you know how those players go, how they're coached up, then you know that this is the perfect game to get them solidified for the rest of the year. See, I no longer get excited by saying, oh, look at these first 2 out of 4 games, first two or three games that they have in the beginning of the season, and try to say I'm going to determine anything about the New England Patriots, because if these aren't considered anything more than preseason games to them, I've never seen anything else. And it's usually after their first month of football when the New England Patriots really start getting their ball rolling. This is why last year I was so upset that teams like the New York Jets or any team weren't able to take their advantage at any given time of Tom Brady being out for the first 4 games, because we see how much those first 4 games matter to New England. So I'm still kind of worried about how New England's going to do. But it does let you see that, you know what? Kansas City may have, now I'm not going to say found a formula to beat them, but showed us definitely something new. Like they say the old saying that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. But it looked like that old dog, Alex Smith, learned some new tricks. And one of those new tricks was being able to find those receivers and not hesitate, I should say, to find those receivers down the field so that he can get the ball to the open man, so that he can very easily try to put his team in scoring position. For once, he looked completely like a number 1 overall draft pick that is also given the title of quarterback. That's what Alex Smith looked like last night. Now, this could be a combination of a lot of things. Because remember at the end of last year when Kansas City was going up against New England, I was picking Kansas City to beat New England because I have a lot of faith in Andy Reid. You guys heard me talk about Andy Reid all of last year, of how much I have faith in his play calling, how much I have faith in him as a head coach. I believe he can coach up a team. And I still believe all of that by Andy Reid. That's the reason I said I'm not even going to lie and sit here like I wasn't going to pick Kansas City over New England. I picked them over New England in the last season. Why wouldn't I pick them now? When I thought that if Andy Reid had 2 weeks to prepare for an opponent, just like Belichick, that he would do something good with it. Well, Andy Reid had a whole offseason to prepare this time. Also coming off of a loss recently to them, or the loss that ended their season. Look at this. I'm going to say something very soon. But I don't know if they're listening right now, so I'm going to make sure that I tag them in. Yeah, so basically right now I'm taking a quick Facebook break. That's what I'm doing. Taking a quick Facebook break. And the reason I had to take this quick Facebook break is because my cousin in New York needed to show me that he pre-ordered now he has ordered his copy of NBA 2K18 early tip-off edition. Which, listen, for everybody out there, looks like a good game to get. But I played the NBA live demo, and it is nice. They have the one version, it is nice. And I'm telling you, especially since they have the WNBA featuring in this game, and it's the first time and the WNBA has been in any game, any way, shape, or form. I'm sorry, 2K. I really do apologize. I'm going to have to go with EA's basketball version of gaming this year. I have to show my love to WNBA. And the bad thing about it, EA, 2K, I think I told you guys this. I think I found a way to reach out to you guys or wrote something to you guys at some point in time. I was like, yo, you guys really need to find a way to put all these college kids in there, all these college schools in there. Why don't you find a way to put the WNBA in there since you're doing all this? And look, EA beat you to it. So now, since apparently somebody is listening, look at that. Got my cousin trying to call me from Canada. Nope, can't call right now. Again, listen to me with this. Instead of just giving random schools or putting random schools or who you think is random schools in your game every year, how about you put the Elite 8 every single year in there? So basically, whoever's in the game has to earn it. And then what you do, whatever players you were represented in the Elite 8, you save a small portion. It could be 1% of sales, 2% of sales, 3% of sales, whatever. Make it a percentage of sale between 1 and 8, depending on where they finished in the Elite 8. Obviously, 10%, like I said, to the winner, 8% to the runner-up, and go on down. 7% to the runner-up, and go on down. And you take that, and you give it to all those kids as some kind of trust fund for them earning a right to be an Elite 8. And listen, I understand that some players may be able to eligible for 3 years worth of sales because they're 3 years students. At least it's something. And then it's given to them once they're done with their college career, once they've graduated from college, to help help take care or eliminate some of that debt, or to help them get on their feet. Since obviously they won't be going into the NBA, you can't get those millions of money. They could at least try to take some of that money and be one of the young entrepreneurs in life. But don't let me get too far off ahead, because we started about this by talking about football and how much time and Andy Reid had to prepare for this. And that is ultimately what helped him win. Is that, listen, New England Patriots were very much prepared for one style of play, and they hit him a completely different way that they were not unprepared for. And what happened was that because it was an adjustment made in the second half by Andy Reid, and he didn't show that hand in the first half, Bill Belichick didn't have enough time to adjust and help his team hold on to the lead that they had. he said Kansas City takes the first win of the NFL season, and it's a big one because it derailed what everybody thought was going to be or what many thought was going to be a perfect season by the New England Patriots. That was followed up by a horrific game by the and I shouldn't say that it was a horrific game by the New York Jets versus the Buffalo Bills, as the Buffalo Bills won that game 21-12. That game was just very personal to me. And listen, not for nothing, you're on a team where you don't know who's your quarterback, right? Where you have a bunch of young quarterbacks that this old veteran is beating out, and you probably know he's not going to be there next year. You're trying to develop some young talent with this Robbie guy, and also you're trying to do it with Enunwa, but Enunwa ends up going out injured. So you had an offense that you were going to feature around 3 young guys, right? Curse, Enunwa, and Robin and Robbie. That's his name is Robbie. And next thing you know, Enunwa goes out. Actually, Curse may have been gotten just to replace Enunwa. And then you get Jeremy Curley, and you bring back Jeremy Curley because you know he's kind of familiar. He likes being a Jet. He's been one of the most productive Jets basically this decade, and he can't play the first game because you want to get him into the system. Or so even in a system where you're like, okay, you're bringing in Jeremy Curley to take away a little bit of pressure from Robbie, who you really liked, and a little bit of pressure from Curse, who's kind of new. What do you have there? You don't have any tight ends. The best one person you have is Matt Forte, which we've completely learned that. Listen, people at Matt Forte's position only come to the Jets so that they can get that final little payday because they'll overpay for anything that has talent written into their name, whether it was past, present, or future. So, LaShawn McCoy completely 100% reminded us in that game why he is LaShawn McCoy and why he is considered a top 5 back in this league when he's healthy, because he ran over the Jets. Now, granted, this is against the Jets. Anybody could look good against the Jets. Like listen, I know some butterfaces can look good against the Jets, next to the Jets, with the Jets, above the Jets. So, I'm not going to make too much of that game. But what I am going to make a big deal out of is this Houston and Jacksonville game. And maybe it was just me that I thought that with the reinsertion of J.J. Watt, who went out that game with a hurt finger, J.J. Watt, Mr. Captain America, got a hurt finger, right? Mr. J.J. Watt himself is inserted back into the Houston lineup. Houston Texans had one of the top 5 defensives last year. Their city was just pummeled. J.J. Watt being one of the biggest proponents of this natural disaster, raised some of the money, and you would have thought that, in part of this, Houston would dedicate it, if not this season, but at least this first game, to the city of Houston, and part of them trying to get things back to normal. Who just know that getting things back to normal meant more losing? They lost to Jacksonville 29-7 in Houston. And while J.J. Watt didn't remind us of why he may be special, and the Houston defense didn't remind us of that they were a top 5 defense last year, while Deshaun Watson may not have made his introductory masterpiece into the NFL worthwhile, Leonard Fournette did. And he continued to show that, hey, you know what? This may be kind of easy for me. Because he put up some yards. And he put up some numbers, and he put up some touchdowns. And he made you realize that he was very much deserving of being drafted where he was drafted. A high-picked running back, at least so far for game 1. At least so far from when the time he made his statement his preseason saying that it was a little bit easier than what he thought it was going to be. At least now he kind of showed that maybe it still may be that easy. That we'll finish up the rest of this week 1 results as hopefully this doesn't happen again this year. But we're going to finish up this week 1 results and we will be back to the commercial break. This is your host, Talent Tomar Taylor. You listen to the Mighty Sports Podcast on mytradio.net.
Let me put you on a game. Being taken advantage of isn't a game and it needs to stop. Aren't you tired of being ripped off by those other guys? Then head to Multiverse Video Games and get the value you deserve on your games and gaming products. The games cost money, and you shouldn't feel like you're just giving them away. So why continuously buy a membership for prices and deals that you should be getting anyway? Multiverse Games not only has fair pricing and great trading deals, Multiverse has a wide variety of games, not just all your popular next-gen titles, but also all your favorite old-school titles and systems, starting as early as Atari and Nintendo to as current as PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. And yes, that does include PlayStations, GameCubes, and Xboxes in between. Even family-owned and operated for over 10 years, just off the intersection of 183rd and 7th Avenue in the Nurses Registry Plaza. That's conveniently located at 830 Northwest 183rd Street, Miami Gardens, Florida 33169. Believe it or not, just 5 minutes from Sun Life Stadium, $7.90 the ticket, and oh no, let's not forget Tootsie's Adult Entertainment Center. Multiverse Games, where you save more so you can play more.
And we are back to the MyT Sports Podcast. If you're listening, that means you're listening to one of two places, either mytradio.net or mytsports.net. However you are listening, I do appreciate you taking the time to give me your ear, or to lend me your ear. That's like my fellow countrymen. Booyakasha. Can I get some fireworks for that one? Or a reggae horn, whichever one works for you guys back there. So we had the Pittsburgh Steelers also take out the Cleveland Browns. Which the Cleveland Browns, 21-18, which the Cleveland Browns actually showed some moxie in this game. Which, listen, they may have also been able to find their quarterback of the future. Well, listen, just like the other rookie quarterback I just mentioned, he took an L. But he took a little bit more impressive L than the team that, and the guy that also looked like he had everything handed to him. And the only thing that they said that they thought they needed was a quarterback. So they realize that may be a lot of pressure for a young quarterback. Even as good as he may be, like, hey, we got everything here. We just need you to not fuck up.
Dirty Turkish Sergeant Batten, Flatten, Fortin, Philip Bucket Martin, Perkalola Burton, Burton, Bush, Madden, Martin, and Attenborough.
So Pittsburgh beats Cleveland 21-18 in the game that saw Antonio Brown get targeted 11 times and make all 11 catches. Yes, folks. Antonio Brown himself, 11 for 11, put up monster yards, looked like he was in the video game once again, and reminded everybody, Antonio Brown, why he is the best wide receiver in the game. While Le'Veon Bell, who was drafted high by a lot of people this past week, only produced 32 yards. Now listen, right now he showed us to be an average running back. For him, I'm not too worried about that with him as much as I'm worried about that with Adrian Peterson, who we'll get to talk about a little bit later. Because he'll find his footing and he'll bounce back. Adrian Peterson's problem may be a lot more fundamental than that. Arizona, folks. Arizona lose to Detroit 23-35. And a couple of things happen at this game. Not only does Arizona lose their top running back, but Detroit and Matthew Stafford actually shows us why Matthew Stafford deserved to be the highest paid player. Or I shouldn't say deserved to be the highest paid player in the league, but deserved the contract that he received. Listen, It's just the base of the timing for him. Matthew Stafford is one of the top quarterbacks in the league. He wins you more games than he loses you. He's usually one of those guys that constantly has to bring you back into games more than he has to bring you out of the game. He's had more of a defensive issue more than he's ever had an offensive issue, and he's actually been fairly healthy. And listen, for the time period that you was paying Tony Romo, I'm just saying, like, why shouldn't this time period Matthew Stafford get paid? He's no better than what Romo is at this stage in their stages of each of his career, or this stage of his career compared to Romo. So give the man the money. Give the man the money. Let him get paid, and let him put up his numbers. But Arizona losing their best running back, that is something that's gonna have to change up your whole entire fantasy football production as well. That's something you're gonna have to address as well. Once again, this is a little tip to make sure I put in this, especially for some of you ladies out there. You guys know I'm gonna have a little something for you at the end. You know what I'm saying? You know how we get down. Now, the Tampa Bay versus Miami game, as most of you guys have known by now, was postponed because of the hurricanes that were passing down through here in Florida. That takes us right over to Atlanta versus Chicago. And Atlanta was able to beat Chicago 20-37. Nothing special about it. Nothing for us to remember. Julio Jones didn't have the kind of game that like Antonio Brown had. So let's just move right on. Oakland beat Tennessee 26-16. In a game that did show us that Marshawn Lynch is definitely back. He still runs with that same kind of that same explosiveness, that same attacking, that same aggression that makes him one of the hardest guys to tackle, which made him a more productive running back in the league over the same time that he was in the league as Adrian Peterson. Just to let you know. We bring up Adrian Peterson a couple of times in this for a reason. Just know we have something in store for him, Mr. Adrian Peterson. Give me some music so I can talk about the rest of this. I need to hurry up and get through it. I need to hustle through the rest of these picks. Baltimore beat Cincinnati. In a game, I'm not gonna lie to you, I would have picked Cincinnati just based on the simple fact I don't know why I have a soft spot in my heart for Andy Dalton and AJ Green. But I should have realized that I wouldn't have picked since I didn't Cincinnati versus Baltimore. Since I didn't draft AJ Green this year on my fantasy football team, well, I think AJ Green had a very good 4-5 stretch. I'm starting that AJ Green is starting to get dinged up a little, and he's not starting to be that person that he is anymore. Granted, still believe he may still be a top 10 wide receiver. I just don't know if it's enough. Because right now I think he may be on the cusp of being a top 10. We're talking about guys still talking about guys like Des Bryant that still need to step up. We still got guys like Thomas from New Orleans that we're talking about here. So he sneaks in there, but he's starting to make you wonder, especially if guys like Diggs can continue to shine. Diggs from Minnesota. Now, I told you I have a soft spot for Cincinnati. What I'm surprised at is that the soft spot I have for Cincinnati didn't overthrow the soft spot I have in my heart for Baltimore, which made me realize that since Ray Lewis has left Baltimore, my soft spot for Baltimore has diminished, which has caused me very grossly to overlook what has happened with Baltimore's defense, and that is the fact that in 15 years that Terrell Suggs has been a beast, and they helped them post a 20-0. Cincinnati Bengals put up a donut against the Baltimore Ravens defense. Philly beat Washington 30-17 in another game that I'm not too surprised. Carson Wentz looked good early last year. We expected that he may look good early again this year as he figures some things out before people could figure some things out about him. But not only that, the fact that Kirk Cousins has been completely blackballed in a way. Not the same way that Colin Kaepernick is blackballed, but in a way that it looks like his team doesn't want him to succeed because they barely want him. He's being signed on franchise tags every single year, but they completely stripped his team of talent on the offensive end. And if that's the case, then we're really going to have to see how good Kirk Cousins is. Like, is Kirk Cousins good enough to make nobodies look good? Or is Kirk Cousins good enough to make good people look good? Or make them continue to look good? To make good people not look bad? Because what's still bad is this quarterback situation that's going on in Indianapolis. Indianapolis takes a horrific beating to the LA Rams as they lose 46-9. And again, that made me quickly realize that, hey, all of this talk that we do, like I said, consistently that's being done about Colin Kaepernick not having a job, and how Baltimore was being thrown under the bus for not giving Colin Kaepernick a shot or a proper interview. When we see what happened when Joe Flacco in week 1, Joe Flacco's back and he played. Can't see no Andrew Luck. And without him to help his team go 10-5, we seen what his team looks like. And we see what he looked like against the Rams, the LA Rams. Like, I still can't even give that proper credit. Carolina takes out San Francisco, and San Francisco hasn't been a team since Kaepernick has been on it. Carolina beats San Francisco 23-3. Seattle loses to Green Bay, which is another shocker of a game. And maybe it wasn't a shocker of a game because these are two teams that are going to see each other a couple of times. These are to be considered one of the two higher elite teams in this league, and they beat up on each other for a game that came down to be 17-9. Green Bay with the victory over Seattle, which, listen, when you're in Green Bay, Seattle got exposed for a couple of things. And it's not even that throughout the years we even thought that Seattle always had this great offensive line. We just knew that Seattle also had a mobile quarterback to go with that bad offensive line, which allowed the offensive line to not only be bad, but allowed the quarterback to give himself time to get that ball down the field. So what's changing suddenly? Is the offensive line really getting that much worse? Or is Russell Westbrook really just losing a step? I'm going to be honest with you. I guess we're going to have to see through the rest of the season. Like, we really are going to have to see how this turns out. And talking about that, man, I forgot. Did we talk basketball yet? Have we even talked basketball yet with you guys? No, we have not. I almost forgot how long these results take. The New York Giants lost to the Dallas Cowboys, and we already discussed that to nauseam. So we're not going to talk any more about that game. But just know, Odell Beckham may be proving his point. And if that's the case, it's going to be scary to have to see him as one of the highest paid players in the league. New Orleans lost to Minnesota, right? In the first of the Monday night games. And this game, I'm not going to lie to you, surprised me a little bit because I thought that Minnesota would have had more than enough weapons to take down the Minnesota Vikings. So this game very quickly proved a couple of things to me, right? Or revealed, I should say. I shouldn't say really proved, but revealed a couple of things to me. One of those things, one of those things is being that, yeah, even with a guy like Adrian Peterson on the field, we probably won't see New England have that straight downhill running game that we thought they would add by adding a guy like Adrian Peterson, which is the only reason why I thought Adrian Peterson would consistently have value this year, or at least have goal line value. But what I really saw was that, yes, Minnesota once again may be one of the better defensive teams this year. And Minnesota, with a healthy squad, kind of showed that. But even more so, Sam Bradford, another year in this system, showed me that he couldn't be a quarterback in this league. Like, he can actually be a quarterback. Like, who thought that after all these years, that if you were looking for a quarterback, that you'd be able to find one in Sam Bradford? You know what? While that may be a surprise that we're able to find a quarterback in Sam Bradford, what I don't want you to be surprised is when you're trying to figure out what to do again this Friday. Do what I always tell you to do. Stop worrying. Stop thinking. Head to Capone's nightclub in downtown Fort Lauderdale. This is where you'll find DJ Scepter mixing in the lounge room so you can start dancing and start drinking. Listen, I understand you may be an introvert, so you may need to have a couple of drinks in you. You may be an introvert. You may just want a couple of drinks to lose. It's okay. It's cool. We understand. I understand you. Have a couple of drinks so you can start dancing. Whatever, regardless of what you do, you make sure you do a DJ Scepter. This is every single Friday from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. Ladies, you bring your sexy. Fellas, you bring your swag. It's going down to Capone's. And wait, there's more. If you're trying to figure out what to do tonight, as we try to get back a little bit of normality back into our city, back into our system, you know, go and find DJ Scepter at O'Malley's nightclub. He'll be DJing from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. This is O'Malley's on 441, right between Coconut Creek Boulevard and Royal Palm. Listen, DJ Scepter is playing everywhere that you want to be. Whether it's after a hurricane, during a hurricane, birthdays, weddings, bar mitzvahs, quinceañeras, bachelor or bachelorette parties, DJ Scepter puts a raw touch on everything. And if you would like to reserve his talents, all you have to do is send him a simple email to bookings@djscepter.com. That's BOOKINGS @djscepter.com. And we are back. And once again, if you're still listening, that means you are listening to the Mighty Sports Podcast, and you're listening to either one or two places, either mytradio.net or myt-sports.net, regardless of how you're listening. Actually, I'm lying. I am officially lying. There's a third place that you can listen to it. And that's on TuneIn Radio. Yes, folks, we're affiliated with TuneIn Radio. You can listen to us on TuneIn Radio as well. But the two major places, of course, it's either mytsports.net or mytradio.net, so you also don't miss a thing that goes on in the MyT world. At Vet Life, baby. Hashtag Vet Life. That's us. So let's finish up these games. So yes, and also in a game so we talking about Minnesota, New Orleans here, right? And the fact that Adrian Peterson wasn't used in the way that we thought he would have been utilized. Because not only did we think that he was going to be a down the field kind of bat, you understand, and give a lot of power situations, but we also thought that he would be utilized against a team that he just left. But instead, what we found out was that, no, Minnesota's defense, they're ready again. Sam Bradford, with one more year in this offense, he looks like he's ready to take command of this offense and get that ball downfield. And very, very, very much so make us forget about Teddy Bridgewater. Remember that guy? Diggs showed up on a night that they decided to honor Randy Moss and get 2 touchdowns and celebrate as only one Moss can in the end zone. But more than that, we even found out that Minnesota may already have their running back of the future, folks. And man, must that hurt if you find your name to be Adrian Peterson. That not only do you sit on the sideline and watch your current team get railroaded by your former team, as your former team runs it down your current team's throat, your current team doesn't even want to get you the ball. Which means that Adrian Peterson is going to be talked again later on this show. You just wait for it. In the final game of the first week of the opening week of the NFL season, we have the LA Chargers See, when I see this LAC, I have to take out my brain that it's not the Clippers. Versus the Denver Broncos. As the Broncos, just like the odd maker said, will come away with a 3-point victory. Which, I'm not going to lie to you, didn't look like it was going to be a 3-point victory. Looked like it was going to be it's a 14-point blowout. The LA Chargers forced 2 turnovers in the final 6 minutes of the game that allowed them to come back. Or final 10 minutes. 6 minutes? 6 minutes sounds better. In the closing minutes of the game to allow them to come back only to lose by a field goal after icing the kicker from the Chargers with seconds left in regulation. The kicker made the first shot that he was iced. Unfortunately, that second one was blocked as they allowed penetration straight up the middle. For the first week, we didn't do too bad. We went 10-5. But this second week, we're going to do a whole lot better. We're going to do a whole lot better. Because we're going to make sure that we combine all aspects when we get these picks into you. But, before we do that, let's get into some quick NBA news, right? Let's get into some quick NBA news. So this is going to be fast. Right? Russell Westbrook. He gets himself a very lucrative 10-year deal from the Jordan brand. Right? As he joins, obviously, Kawhi Leonard on the Jordan brand. But right now, basically, he has committed to Jordan way more than he's committed to Oklahoma City. But very much kudos to Russell Westbrook. And let's give this guy a quick round of applause. Do we have the round of applause button here? Can we get that? Because he basically monetized his triple-double season into a 10-year guaranteed contract from one of the biggest shoe moguls in the game, as they would like for him to represent them. Next up in NBA news, the NBA rankings have come out through not just ESPN but Sports Illustrated and other platforms. But let's focus on the one from ESPN right now, because that is the one that our local player, when I say our local player, I'm talking about us New Yorkers. New York Knicks Carmelo Anthony was ranked number 64 in the NBA top 100 list. Well, the NBA rankings, top 100 list. A position that found him one spot below, LeVar Ball. I know what you guys are thinking. I can't think of 64 players that I would want to take before Melo, to be 100% honest with you. But this is why I very much said at one point in time that Melo should want to get to Cleveland. Because people need to remember that Melo is not the 64th best player in the fucking league. Like, you're talking about a guy that should easily be top 30. I'm sorry. Top 30. Yes, I understand he's fallen off. I understand he's been diminished some. But you're really telling me that guys like DeMar DeRozan, Patrick Beverley, and LaMar Ball are people that you want to take over Carmelo Anthony? I'm sorry. Go on. Just go on on a wicked way as them. I'm not going to sit back and let you guys ruin that moment for me. But Carmelo Anthony seems to get to on a winning team. That's why he should have went to Cleveland this year. And all he doesn't need to do is just prove people wrong this year. But you know what? I found out something. Once a player basically becomes a scoring league in the league for a year, after that, they kind of start to drop off. Dwayne Wade and him both felt that way. And the reason why I bring up Dwayne Wade, because Dwayne Wade didn't even make the top 100 list. Now, granted, we're talking about from last year. So it's from last year's production. And I still think of there's 63 people it's not 63 people I want to take over Melo. But let's say there's not 100 people? There are 100 people for Dwayne Wade? Like, oh my goodness. Like, these two lists are sickening to me. But another good thing that's happened in the NBA this year is that the LA Lakers are going to retire both of Kobe's jerseys later on this year in December. So that is something to look forward to.
Can you dig it, sucker?
As we get ready for these week 2 picks, and this may come just in time, folks. These week 2 picks. Whew. Maestro, play some music for me. So basically, this is the section where we have our mighty football picks. This is basically this section. If you play in a football pool every single week, this is what we try to cater to you guys. We're trying to get a pick out here for you. So get ready. Take 5 seconds. Get yourself a pen, and we'll be right back. And we'll get ready to do our first pick as Houston goes to take on Cincinnati. Both teams that haven't won a game so far this season. Okay, I hope you got everything that you needed, because we're gonna go through these kind of fast. We're gonna explain some of these, and maybe we won't. But don't worry, ladies. I know if you've been listening, you wonder, hey, where are my fantasy football tips? Don't worry, ladies. As I told you in the past, or I told you last show, if I have to, I will always do an extended version of the show just to make sure that you gals get your tips. Because I want you to catch on to this fantasy football as fast as anybody else. So I'm gonna teach you some nuances. But remember, these aren't winning ways. These aren't gonna help you be the fantasy football expert. These are just the tips. Okay? So we have Houston taking on Cincinnati in the first game of the Thursday night game. Houston and Cincinnati both are winless this season, and as bad as Cincinnati looked last week, I'm expecting that they may just look again. I expect them to look just as bad again against a team like Houston, that I believe has more parts and more to lose. And I don't see any one of these teams being able to afford to start off 0-2, but I see that even less for Houston. So we're giving Houston to be able to to come up with their first victory on the road versus Cincinnati. Minnesota, I see Minnesota goes up against Pittsburgh next. And actually, believe it or not, folks, this is going to be the first game of the multi-vest picks of the week. Yes, folks, that section is coming back to you. Multi-vest picks of the week. We have 5 games this week on the multi-vest picks of the week. First one of them, and basically, is going to be a few games that we really want to watch and we want to keep in interest. First one of them games is going to be Minnesota versus Pittsburgh. And both of these teams won their games last week. Both in their own respective impressive fashion. We have two good defenses going up against 2 good offenses. We have one Super Bowl quarterback up against a guy in a quarterback that we've always thought had the tools, but has never put it together. And it looks like this year he may be able to put it together. But I still don't see Minnesota beating Pittsburgh on the road. And that's part of the reason why I'm also not starting Diggs this week. So if you have Diggs, lady, there goes your first fantasy football tip. If you have another comparable wide receiver, look at what kind of defensive matchup they have right now. But the only reason why I'm not starting Diggs. That Minnesota, listen, for everything that Pittsburgh has, one thing they do know how to do, and that is at least defend on their own guy, Antonio Brown. I don't see them having too much problems having to cover Diggs. And next we have Cleveland going up against Baltimore. And I told you that I was surprised of how I overlooked Baltimore. Them being a team that I have loved ever since Ray Lewis has been on that team, and I have kind of adored as one of my secondary teams while Ray Lewis was there. I realize that Terrell Suggs has found a way to hold this fort down, and I'm going to pick them to beat Cleveland, as Cleveland hasn't won a game so far this season. So Cleveland's going to start up 0-2. Baltimore will improve to 2-0. Next up, we have Arizona versus India. Both of these teams are once again I have not won a game this season. And like I said, I think that Indiana may be the only team that I think is one of the few teams that are going to be worse than the Jets this year, or right along that same area that the Jets were in. So I am actually going to take Arizona, even without their running back, but being able to add new features in there and spread things around a little bit more again. I see them being able to beat Indiana, as I don't even know if Indiana has a comparable defense to put on that field either. Next up, we have Philly versus Kansas City, and this game, folks, marks the second game of the multiverse games of the week, as we have a young Carson Wentz and all of the talent that they have recently gotten him in that wide receiving core versus Kansas City, Andy Reid, Andy Dalton, not Andy Reid and Andy Dalton, sorry, Andy Reid, Alex Smith, and a whole bunch of good coaching and game planning. We're gonna see if Kansas City can maintain their hot streak, as they could keep coming off basically a victory over New England. I see them continuing it and them advancing to 2-0 as Philly drops to 1-1. Next up, we have Jacksonville versus Tennessee, and this is another game that is on the multiverse games of the week, because this is a game that's going to be storing a lot of young talent. Because it's one thing that we are not sure of yet is if Tom Coughlin, yes, the former coach from the New York Giants, has fully turned around the Jacksonville Jaguars. And if he has slightly managed to do so, Jacksonville has some talent that they can make some noise. Not a lot of noise, but some noise in this NFL. And at least enough noise that they don't have to worry about about being a last place team anymore. They look like to have a little bit more of consistency now, which is something that they have always needed, and it may be the best thing for them. Now, is it enough to beat Tennessee? So this is going to be another young talent. We're talking about Marcus Mariota, who looked like his defense has picked up some. Just didn't do a good job against... Who did they play last week? Against Oakland. But a lot of the same things that you see that Oakland has, Jacksonville may have. Just younger, less experienced versions of it. But if Jacksonville can control that offensive line or that time of possession, the way they did the first game and the way that Oakland kind of tried to do against them, then I see Jacksonville Jaguars being able to start 2-0, picking up another victory against Tennessee, which will drop them to 0-2, and then it'll make you start to question, what does Tennessee really have? Because the questions will start. Let Tennessee go 0-2. Next up, we have Buffalo versus Carolina. Both of those teams won their season opener, and I have Carolina beating Buffalo. Now, I know part of this is because Buffalo is in my division. I know that. But also, part of me also likes to pick Buffalo, likes to claim Buffalo as my third team. Listen, I'm a New Yorker, true and true. True and true. Right? So, I do have sentimental value to them. But my sentimental value is not going to stop me from thinking that they can beat Carolina. Carolina has not only, like I said, we're still talking about a team that's 2 years removed from being in the Super Bowl, right? We're still talking about a team that still has Cam Newton on it, right? We're still talking about a team that has recently added, who looks to be a stud of a running back. And a team that should have some motivation for how bad they looked last year. So yeah, I'm picking Carolina to go ahead and to get this victory over Buffalo. Advance to 2-2 as Buffalo falls down to 1-1. Now here we go with New England and New Orleans, as we have two teams that basically lost their opener. We're going to New Orleans, and I'm telling you right now, if New Orleans isn't gonna punch this ball down their throat and work that clock and gut them with Adrian Peterson, I don't see them pulling off this victory. New England gets their first victory of this season on the road in New Orleans. Now a team that I very much would love to see, but they aren't going to make the multiverse games of the week or even the mighty game of the week. But this is a game I would like to see. two things you're all going to know. One thing you can know for sure, that the running back for the Chicago Bears, Howard, I believe his name is, he will get the ball. He will run. He will score a touchdown. And if you have him on your fantasy football team, he most likely will put up double-digit points for you. That's their only weapon that they have. And because that's the only weapon that they have, I don't see them beating Tampa Bay, because I am excited to see Tampa Bay come out and start this season off right. And what better way than to beat up on a Chicago team that really has no kind of defense? I'm excited to see Jameis Winston. I'm excited to see O.J. Howard. I'm excited to see Mike Evans. I'm excited to see Deshaun Jackson. I'm excited to see that whole entire core. I'm excited to see their core running backs. I can't even name them. And I'm excited to see them. So yes, I have Tampa Bay, who didn't get a chance to play last week, but may get a chance to play this week at home. I see them beating Chicago and getting their first victory of the season. Now, unfortunately, I don't see the same thing for the Miami Dolphins, who take on the LA Chargers next game. And I know the LA Chargers didn't win their game last week, and I know they have nothing to show for it. But I do, I'm not gonna lie, I do like the weapons that the LA Chargers have. Right? And I would expect them, because they didn't get the opportunity to play at home last game. So I would expect them that in what's considered their first home game, to come out and show something. To come out and play with a little bit of moxie. Don't let Miami control them. Don't let Miami's defense do what it does. Don't let Miami's running game or wide. I'm not even sure if any of these things are solidified, but if Miami wins, it's because Miami would have controlled all facets of the game. From defense to offense to running game to everything. Because they believe in Jay Cutler. So we have to see what the Chargers do against them. But, I'm not going to lie to you, part of this is where my hate for the Miami Dolphins comes into place. And this is part of the reason why I'm picking the Chargers to beat them. Now, even though I may have a lot of hate for the Miami Dolphins, and like I said, it was the same reason why it was going to help me pick New England last year. Now, if we're talking about straight winning this year, then I can't let my heart cloud too much of my judgment, because I can't logically explain all of them. I'm even explain Chicago over Tampa Bay. I mean, Chargers over Miami. I can't explain the Jets over Oakland. So yes, I have Oakland Raiders beating the brakes off of the New York Jets. So much so that I can't find a way not to start Marshawn Lynch in my fantasy football league. Yes, folks, I am one of those people that I may have these guys probably 5 years too late, but I have Marshawn Lynch and Adrian Peterson on my fantasy football team. So far, they're doing what I thought they would do. They're going to keep me consistently in games. And Adrian Peterson right now may be replaced. But listen, it's okay. I have the running back from Houston. And I also have the running back from the Chargers. I'm forgetting his name. Jeez. I really do hate when I draw these blanks. So you know what? So we don't have to draw any more blanks. No, give me some music. Give me some music in this background. No, can I get a little bit of something? Just a little something? There we go. That works. So yeah, my fandom couldn't even allow me to pick the Jets over Oakland. Oakland is the truth this year. They have a monster team, wide receiving, running back, defense, quarterback, all over the place. So they're gonna do their thing. And like I said, I have Todd Gurley, so I'm not too worried about it. I'm gonna let Todd Gurley do his thing. Sorry, not Todd Gurley. Gordon. I have Gordon, so I'll let Gordon do his thing, and we'll see how that pans out. Next game, we have San Francisco taking on Seattle, and I just don't see Seattle losing 2 games that badly. And also, we're talking about San Francisco here. We're really talking about San Francisco here. Like they are one of the few teams that are going to be just as bad as the Jets. Like, as I'm saying this right now, I'm just going to let you guys know that fighting for that number 1 spot, right, this year, number 1 draft pick spot, is going to be the Jets. They're going to be one of them. We're going to get the Indianapolis Colts in there. We get the San Francisco 49ers in there. Those are going to be 3 of them. Let me see who else is on this list. I honestly believe, unless I see something more, I think Washington is going to be on that. That's probably one of the first teams that didn't make a playoff last year. That's going to be on. That's going to be out. That's going to have a complete turnaround. And who else? Who's that other team? That may just be it for right now. I don't know how these LA teams are going to be stacking up so far. But I have to see a little bit more of Cincinnati before I completely write them off. And Cleveland, who knows? Like, who really knows? Like, I could just put Cleveland in there just for GP, you know? And I'll have a 70-30% chance to being right. So in this San Francisco versus Seattle game, I look at Seattle coming out of this game and having a big game at that. Now, I don't know who's gonna have a big game. I don't know if he's even gonna be anybody from the receiving corps that's gonna have a big game. But I expect Seattle to win this game and to get back to looking like normal. But the only reason that they're gonna look normal is because we're gonna be going up against San Francisco. Up next, we have the LA Rams versus the Washington Redskins. And like I said, if any indication of what I saw, LA Rams is gonna start off the season with 2 straight victories as well, and they're gonna beat Washington because Washington is void of talent right now. They are void of weapons. They're void of anything that Cousins can use to help him win games. But isn't that the test, though? To see if Kirk Cousins is worth $20+ million a year? Isn't that really what this is all done for? Up next, we have Dallas versus Denver. And this gets into our next multi-vest game of the week. As these next following... nope, never mind. I won't finish that statement. So, I am very curious to see if Denver's defense can do again to basically if Denver can do to the Chargers what they did to Dallas. Denver's going to be a scary team. Very, 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 very much scary. But remember, Dallas had very good defensive components too. So can Dallas go on the road and pick up a victory after coming off a kind of emotional game versus the Giants? This is going to be the first pick that's really, 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 really difficult for me this year. I am going to assume that Denver takes this one. And I'm only giving them this because they're at home. I don't believe anything. No. Dallas is going to be tested. Ezekiel Ellis is going to be tested. Des Bryant is going to be tested. Is it enough? Is it enough? I think Denver takes this victory. I do believe Denver takes this victory and go 2-0. We'll see. Listen, if Denver loses, I'll be really interested to see how this Dallas thing is, because you have to figure Ezekiel Elliott also has to want to play the game of the career that he's ever had, the best career he's had. It's only his second season because he knows there's a suspension looming over his head. He knows he's gonna lose some money. He's gonna lose some playing time. And talking about losing, what worse way to lose than in the Super Bowl after you're up 24-3? Atlanta and Green Bay both get to see if they can rewrite what was the past in last year's playoff. Green Bay being taken out by Atlanta, I believe. And Atlanta obviously being taken out by New England. And until Green Bay can fully show that defense is back, can you think they could beat Atlanta? So I don't know. So I'm gonna give Atlanta the leeway on this one, as both teams are also 1-0. I'm gonna give Atlanta home field advantage. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt that Green Bay has to travel all the way over here to Atlanta, all the way down here to Atlanta. And the fact that even though both teams are going to be looking to get Boogie and and redeem their loss from the end of last year. I don't see Green Bay's defense doing to Atlanta what they did to Seattle. Atlanta has a little bit too many weapons, a little bit too many checkdowns, too many deep threats. And I believe this could be one of those games where they utilize all that. Even though we're going to see Aaron Rodgers put up a great performance, it's just not going to be enough to help him pull out this victory. And then we have the Monday night game, which is Detroit versus the Giants. And as Detroit faces the Giants, Giants really can't afford to start off 0-2. But I'm gonna tell you this, and this is gonna be the determining factor. For right now, I'm picking Detroit. I'm telling you, I'm picking Detroit. Pay attention to that game. And if by Sunday, if Odell Beckham is playing, or any point in time that you hear Odell Beckham is playing, between now and by the time you have to finalize that pick, you pick the New York Giants. I would see Odell Beckham coming back to ball completely out. That's what I would foresee. But as of right now, I have Detroit starting off 2-0 and beating the brakes off of the New York Giants. And that is everything for week 2, folks. We're not gonna get any further. So if you can remember, the multiverse games of the week were Minnesota versus Pittsburgh, where we have Pittsburgh winning, Philly versus Kansas City, where we have Kansas City winning, Tennessee versus Jacksonville, where we have Jacksonville winning, Dallas versus Denver, where we have Denver winning, and Green Bay versus Atlanta, when we have Atlanta winning. So basically, it's almost like we're going chalk. We have all of the home teams winning in the multiverse games, and also games that we think are going to be highly competitive and highly intriguing. So, because of the fact that these are our top 5 games, it's like, these are also those games that can go either or. We just don't expect them to that much. Minnesota, maybe. Dallas, maybe. Green Bay, maybe. Not so much so maybe Philly. And Tennessee, yes. So, listen, these can go any way you want. Now. Sorry. We're going to have to cut off that juicy beat. Because I told you, I'm not going to leave here without getting some one-on-one with the ladies here as we talk fantasy football. I mean, when we talk fantasy football, like, am I the only ones notice? You know what? We're going to talk about the balls next week. So next week, stay tuned to the Mighty Sports Podcast. We will definitely talk about the balls. They're making some leeway. And they have me intrigued. But ladies, this is your time. There's nobody else's time but your time. This is where we get to sit down one-on-one, face-to-face, and I give you everything that you need. Not enough to win, but just a tip. That's enough to get by. Just so you know what you're doing. Alrighty? So here we are with the mighty fantasy football tips.
Just the tip? Just the tip. Just the tip.
Let's just say what I want involves much more than just the tips. Just the tips. What I want is much more than just the tips.
Mighty.
Yes, it is the mighty fantasy football tips. And the very first fantasy football tip I have for you. Yes, now we can get juicy. This is the time that we get juicy. In the tip section. The very first thing. And, you know what? We'll continue. Very first thing I'm worried about is Adrian Peterson, folks. If you picked up Adrian Peterson, and I'm hoping that you didn't pick him up anywhere between like the 4th or 5th round, but if you picked Adrian Peterson, you were also probably hoping that you could sneak him in there and put him into a flex spot or that running back 2 spot, and he'd be highly productive for you from the 2 or flex spot. And unfortunately, he isn't. So if you have Adrian Peterson, if you have any more comparable running back, like I told you guys, like I have LeVar Miller. I have Miller. I don't know what this guy's first name is. I think it's Lamar Miller. I have Miller from Houston, so he's one good backup to have for me. I have the running back from the Chargers. I just had his name. I just did this. I just did this. And once again, I draw a blank. Not Gordon. Yes, Gordon. I was about to say Gurley again. So I have little backups in this. So if you have a comparable running back, you may want to try playing around with Adrian Peterson and not put him in the starting lineup for a couple of weeks until you can determine if Adrian Peterson's usage rate or usage is going to be proper. If his usage rate is going to go up one, and if his usage is going to be regulated and going to be proper. He's the first guy that gives me cause to pause. The second person that gives me cause to pause is going to be Jimmy Graham. As for the second straight year, I'm just finding out that Jimmy Graham is not going to be working in this Seattle offense. And listen, part of the thing that's supposed to happen with him and Russell Westbrook is that when Russell Westbrook feels like he's under pressure, Jimmy Graham was always supposed to be that guy that's able to run a route that allows for Russell Westbrook to find him downfield and him be a big enough target for him to be gotten, to be hit, to get that reception and possibly take an 80-yarder, 60-yarder, 40-yarder. Kind of like he did with Drew Brees and the New Orleans Saints. So he's either saying one or two things or saying two or two things. Either Jimmy Graham isn't what he used to be, or Russell Westbrook ain't no Drew Brees. For as much as we like Russell Westbrook. Now, those are two guys that gives me cause to pause. Now, before we go any further, hopefully you would have done this already, ladies. And if you haven't, it may be kind of very late, but it may not be too late, depending on which league you're in, right? But there's a thing called waivers. So there was a very significant injury, as I've mentioned several times throughout this show, that happened to Arizona's running back, David Johnson. If you're a person that picked David Johnson, you picked him with a pretty high pick, probably with either your first or second round pick. So what happens here is that you're wondering, oh my God, what do I do? How do I replace this? Well, the way that you should have gone about replacing him is trying to get his immediate backup in Kerwin Williams. Now, the way that generally would have happened is that you would have made a claim for him, or you would have tried to get him on your team starting as early as Tuesday, right? Which is called putting in a claim for him. And now putting that claim for him, you would have ended up having to drop somebody from your team that you don't utilize. So if you had David Johnson, it's perfectly simple. Drop David Johnson. And you try to pick up Kerwin Williams. Now, as I tell you, this is Wednesday night that you're hearing this, and maybe even Thursday that you're hearing this. So it may be too late for you to try to get him over waivers. Now, part of the reason why the waiver is important, why you want to, hey, what's a waiver? That's you trying to get the guy. That's the reason why you had to wait. If you try to get him on Tuesday and told you, hey, you had to wait. Part of the reason why you had to wait is because there's a pecking order. And depending on where you are in this pecking order or the waiver order, it determines if you're eligible to get this person or not. So if somebody that's in the pecking order before you wants him, then they get him before you do. So it's always good whenever you get a chance to check out wherever the waiver wire is located, right? Or the waiver order is located, and find out what order you're in. Because if there's someone that you're really trying to get all of a sudden because they happen to be a significant injury, just know, even though it's your player, other people may also just want to get that player either because they think his production may be good or because they don't want you to have him. In my case, I did him for both reasons. Because I thought he was going to be a good producer, and because I didn't want the person that actually had David Johnson or anybody else in my league to have him. So I dropped somebody that really didn't matter to me, like Jeremy Curley, who I still believe is going to have a decent season this year. I just thought he was expendable. As expendable as these next two tight ends that I am going to mention, because these two guys are as big as a sorry piece of
Dirty Turkish architect, flattened, rotten, Philip Martin, Percoloma, Burton, Martin, and Attenborough
that I have ever seen. I am talking about just pure, like just basura. And that is Hunter Henry from LA and Tyler Eifert from Cincinnati. Now, as we told you, Cincinnati Bengals had one of the most horrific starts, or one of the horrific games from an offensive end I've seen them in a long time, especially for a team that has supposedly a dual threat running back, that has a tight end, that has one at maybe two wide receivers that they can go to. And yet they put up a donut last week, and that donut cost Tyler Eifert to have a donut last week. But he wasn't the only tight end to have a donut. He also put it up with his good friend Hunter Henry from the LA Chargers. Do I have that Charger music? No. Because you know what? Nobody wants to hear about them. You know what those two guys get? So Hunter Henry and Tyler Eifert are both on my shit list. Now, ladies, if you're listening, there are two people, if you haven't drafted them, maybe that you should be able to take a look at. One of them is Eric Ebom, the tight end from the Detroit Lions. As it looks like Matthew Stafford is going to be getting that ball all over the place, and I have a feeling that finally that he'll have his Eric Ebom, that is, he would have his breakout season finally in his third year, with no Calvin Johnson and also Matthew Stafford really coming into his own. And I mean really, because he also doesn't have the Calvin Johnson as the pincushion, as the safety blanket. The other one out there, outside of Eric Ebom, should also be the tight end from Tampa Bay named O.J. Howard. Now, I'm going to tell you, O.J. Howard would actually right now be on my team if it wasn't for the fact that my dumbass has already on their team Tampa Bay's quarterback, Tampa Bay's starting wide receiver, Tampa Bay's backup wide receiver. So for me to get their tight end, there wouldn't be enough points for me to benefit from to go around, to be honest with you, if I'm trying to get elite at each position. Unless it's maybe just the wide receiver and tight end. I can use at least, man, it's so tempting. It's so tempting. And also, I can't remember his name, but I think his name is A. Hunter. But also, the tight end from Atlanta. He's not getting a lot of targets, but he is definitely getting some deep threat targets, and he is getting some red zone targets. So you can get him. So if you're worried that you happen to have guys like Hunter Henry or Tyler Eifert, drop those two guys. Look at guys like Eric Ebom. Look at guys like O.J. Howard. Look at guys like, I believe his name is Ace Hunter or something like A. Hunter from the Atlanta Falcons. And ladies, there goes your fantasy football tips of the week. And as I remember me saying that these may not help you win games. Because I don't know if any information I give you here is going to help you win game. But when it comes to fantasy football, you can at least get the tips.
Just the tip?
Just the tip. Just the tip.
Let's just say what I want involves much more than just the tips. Just the tips. What I want is much more than just the tips.
And with that said, folks, we are out of here. And no, actually, no. Last piece of fantasy football advice. If you have a player going up against the Jets, the Colts, San Francisco 49ers, play them. They should give you a whole lot of points when you're going up against those teams this year. That's my time. I'm Talon Tomar Taylor. You're listening to the Mighty Sports Podcast on mytradio.net. You know what I say. Thank you. Stay tuned. Stay blessed. As we continue this journey, as we continue to hopefully grow, let's remember, as I say, one hand washes the other and both wash the face. I'm out of here.
Sorry, boys. All the stitches in the world can't sew me together again. Lay down. Lay down. Always knew I'd make a stop there. But a lot later than a whole gang of people thought. Last call for drinks. Bars closing down. Sun's out. Where we going for breakfast? Don't want to go far. Rough night. Tired, baby. Tired.
My team.